This is an interesting piece of legislation that came in on the 1st of September 2011. It's an amendment to the Corporate Manslaughter and Corporate Homicide Act. In this amendment, it states that private firms managing people held in custody can now be prosecuted for corporate manslaughter. It goes on to say that they can be prosecuted if they fail to ensure the safety of someone in their care, and examples could include when someone has been restrained using an unauthorized or a badly taught body hold. Now that last paragraph is seriously important. If you're watching this video, you'll have seen the one earlier on regarding the fact that the T supine restraint has been recommended to be removed as a result of the Winterbourne View serious case review. But let's just have a look at prone for a second, and I want to particularly now start moving into the Human Rights Act and a recent report that was produced by the House of Lords and House of Commons Joint Committee on Human Rights. In this report, they comment on restraint in the prone position, and in section 246 they say that restraint in the prone position has been particularly controversial because of the danger it carries to the patient, and it has been implicated in a number of deaths. It also goes on to say that reliance on prone restraint is a matter of concern for compliance with Article 2, given the known danger of this position, evidenced by previous deaths. Now, for those of you that may not know, Article 2 of the Human Rights Act is one of the most fundamentally important articles of the whole Act itself, and it concerns an individual's right to life. What Article 2 promotes is that we must at all times promote and preserve an individual's right to life, particularly where there is an evidential foreseeable risk. This report goes on to say, we emphasise that Article 2 requires that patients and detainees should not be placed at risk by the use of this position unless absolutely necessary to avert a greater risk to themselves or others. Now, absolutely necessary actually means, under human rights legislation, that the organisation has taken proactive and positive steps to look for alternatives to prone, and it does not mean that you've just in the heat of the moment decided that you would use it. So absolutely necessary, if we look at case law under the Human Rights Act, states that where there is a foreseeable risk to life, an organisation, and in this case a private company, must take positive and proactive steps to minimise the risk of death. In our world, in the restraint world, that means finding alternatives to prone. And obviously now, as a result of the serious case review into Winterbourne View, the T supine restraint. And that they should be restrained in this position for the shortest possible time necessary. Now, as I've said in previous videos, I am still hearing stories of people being restrained for 4, 5 and even 8.5 hours, some of that in the prone position. If we are going to comply with Article 2 of the Human Rights Act, then we must take positive and proactive steps to minimise that type of restraint. That means looking at alternatives. It may be handcuffs, it may be some form of emergency response belt, or some other means of actually restraining the person as opposed to human effort alone, which will reduce the risks associated with prone, i.e. the risk of death. And if we fail to do that, not only is there a violation of Article 2 of the Human Rights Act, but due to the amendment you saw earlier on to the Corporate Manslaughter and Corporate Homicide Act, we could end up, or someone could end up, with a charge or a prosecution for gross negligence manslaughter under the Corporate Manslaughter Act, where they failed to manage the safety of someone in their care and who died as a result of an unauthorized or a badly taught body hold being used.